Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to go over some news and rumors specifically about Malakai Black. Now, if you guys are new here, I kind of addressed Dynamite Review earlier today. If you guys haven't seen that video, go check that video out on YouTube as well as Spotify. I much would appreciate that. But I kind of talked about the Malakai Black situation in the review, but there was some news speculating around today, and I got some news about Malakai Black that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. So, in my Dynamite review, I was talking about the Malakai Black match against Adam Cole last night. Now, in that matchup, number one, it was a good matchup between Adam Cole and Malakai Black. After the match, you can see Adam Cole and Malakai Black kind of embrace after the match. Adam Cole was kind of giving Malakai Black his flowers, kind of praising him, saying that he was one of his toughest opponents in all of professional wrestling. And you can see Malakai Black kind of looking on as Adam Cole was in the ring. A lot of people took this as Malakai Black leaving AEW and going over to WWE. Now, in my review, and I will be 100% honest with y'all, and I still believe this, I did say that I do believe that Malakai Black will go over to WWE or back over to WWE at some point. I still believe that, man. I still believe that Malakai Black will go over or back over to WWE. But with that being said, some of the people are just wilding out, bro. Some people are even saying that Malakai Black or Malakai Black has suggested that he's actually going to retire from pro wrestling. That's not the case. For the information that I found out, and even scrolling through TikTok, Malakai Black I believe he put a TikTok out today, letting fans know that, the retirement talk is crazy. That he has never hinted at retirement, and that he is not retiring from pro wrestling anytime soon. And if he did retire, we would be the first ones to know. So the whole retirement talk, we can go ahead and destroy that. That's not going to happen. Malakai Black is not going to retire from pro wrestling. But after he had put out that video, or at least what I saw on TikTok, I kind of had to really rethink about, really what he was saying in that TikTok video and what everybody's been saying here as of late, including myself, for the past few days when it pertains to Malakai Black. So let's look at the narrative here, man. Malakai Black has been with AEW now for the past few years. Obviously, the House of Black stable is not a bad stable. It's just not being utilized correctly. And in that stable, you have, obviously, Malakai Black, Buddy Matthews, Brody King, and Julia Hart. Now, I mentioned about the House of Black stable multiple times. I still believe that the best thing that came out of this stable was Julia Hart. Julia Hart kind of went on her own. She became TBS champion. She was on a hell of a ride until, unfortunately, she got injured, and she's been out of action with injury for quite a while, and hopefully she will be back here relatively soon, which will be great. But with that being said, the stable is not really being utilized correctly. And after the match with Adam Cole, like I said, a lot of people were speculating because the fact that Malakai Black hasn't really been utilized correctly in AEW, and what happened after the Adam Cole match, that he was already kind of riding off to the sunset and retiring or going over to WWE. But like I said earlier, that is not the case, man. He put out a TikTok saying today that, like I said earlier, if he was going to retire, man, he would have let the fans know first that he was going to retire from professional wrestling. But like I said, if you look at the narrative and you look at the entire picture of Malakai Black is not that old in professional wrestling. He's not. Number two, I believe he just opened his wrestling school not too long ago, I think a few months ago, with the Dark Arts Wrestling School. I think it's stationed out of Florida, if I'm not mistaken, around the Orlando area, if I'm not mistaken. And he just opened up that wrestling school to, train independent wrestlers or train people that want to be wrestlers to actually get on the independent scene and become professional wrestlers, hopefully. So Malakai Black's not leaving professional wrestling, bro. If anything, he's just trying to intensify his pro wrestling with obviously adding the Dark Arts Pro Wrestling School that he created. And like I said, he's training, men and women over there to try to become wrestlers, which I'm all for that, man. I think, Malakai Black and what he's done in his career, he's very good at his craft. Obviously, he has a Muay Thai background as well. And he brings a whole different dynamic to professional wrestling that a lot of times we don't see that. I mean, he brings in a lot of things in his arsenal into his matches, especially with the Muay Thai background that he has. I feel like he kind of incorporates that into his wrestling matches. I mean, his finish alone with the spinning roundhouse kick, that's got Muay Thai written all over it. So, but besides all that, the retirement talk with Malakai Black is absolutely insane. I never even said or remotely even thought of the fact that Malakai Black would be retiring from pro wrestling. I mean, whoever came up with that idea, that's crazy. That's completely out of pocket, in my honest opinion. And that's just wild. I never thought that Malakai Black would retire at all. to be honest with you. Now, with that being said, do I still believe that Malakai Black will possibly go back to WWE? Yeah. I mean, even in the TikTok video, it wasn't like he completely addressed the fact that he is staying with AEW for the rest of his career, or he's an AEW lifer. He never even addressed that. He just said that he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So, I mean, that could also mean the fact that he's not going anywhere anytime soon with the whole retirement talk, and that he's still going to be wrestling for a very long time. So, I think the WWE thing is not completely far-fetched. I mean, I know that there's been a lot of people speculating that WWE, once Malakai Black's contract is coming up, that they're going to be throwing him a lot of money and a really good deal to bring him back into the fold of WWE. Do I see him going back to WWE? Yeah, I do. I don't think... It's the same thing how I feel about Penta and Phoenix, man. There's not really much that these guys can do more or less in AEW, to be honest with you. I think Penta and Phoenix would benefit greatly going over to WWE, and I've said that ever since the news came out about Penta and Phoenix. They would do great things over in WWE. I mean, if you look at the Motor City Machine Guns, they were rumored to come over to AEW, and they opted to go over to WWE, and they are the current WWE Tag Team Champions. So, obviously things are working out for Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin with the Motor City Machine Guns. So, obviously that's going to probably entice Penta and Phoenix to go over to WWE, because there's not much left for these guys to do over in AEW. The tag team division is abysmal. It's kind of the same thing with the House of Black. I mean, the trios division is not really there. There's not really a trios division if you really think about it. And to be honest with you, I think the trios titles are something that's just a waste of time for AEW. So, and I mentioned this earlier with the episode I did for the review for AEW Dynamite. Malakai Black should have been TNT champion multiple times. Should have been in the conversation for a World Heavyweight Championship as well. I mean, Malakai Black has a lot to offer in professional wrestling. And like I said, with the retirement talk, it's just crazy. But, like I said, I wanted to address this because there was a lot of news coming out today about Malakai Black. A lot of people were confused on, really what happened after the match between him and Adam Cole. And obviously, like I said, they embraced after the match. You can see Malakai Black watching on while Adam Cole was in the ring cutting a promo. So it kind of looked like it was a farewell for Malakai Black, and it was kind of like a done deal that he was done with AEW. But I don't see that being the case as far as retirement, but I can see that be the case of WWE. Like I said, it wasn't like he said he was going to be a lifer for AEW. He just said that he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So, I mean, as far as the whole WWE talk is concerned, I'm not going to really stifle that and say that he's possibly not going to go over to WWE. I'm sure they're going to offer him some kind of deal to bring him back over to WWE, and rightfully so. I mean, he's a great talent. He's a great wrestler. He kind of really cut his teeth over in NXT and obviously elevated up to the main roster. So, and obviously with Selena Vega being over in WWE, I mean, what better way to, reconnect him with Selena? So, because obviously right now they're both working for two different wrestling promotions, one being the WWE and one being obviously in AEW. So, but like I said, man, the retirement talk is crazy. I don't know who came up with that, but that shit's wild. That is absolutely crazy. And like I said, he addressed that in a TikTok video today, addressing what happened with the Adam Cole match, saying that, that he's not going to retire. And I believe him. I don't see Malakai Black retiring, like I said earlier, with all the shit that he has going on right now. Obviously, he just opened up his wrestling school, the Dark Arts Wrestling School. I believe that's in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. And right now, I mean, honestly, for what it's worth, man, I mean, if you look at just WWE alone, they just introduced a new WWE ID program where they're going to different wrestling schools and trying to work with independent talent to possibly bring them into the fold of WWE or NXT. I think WWE is working with Seth Rollins' school. They're working with Reality of Wrestling, which is Booker T's school as well, his promotion. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Dark Arts are not in the conversation with that. I think the Nightmare Academy or Nightmare Factory is also a part of the WWE ID program. So, I mean, I'm sure, with that being announced, I'm sure Malakai Black probably was, hey, if they are interested, absolutely. I mean, I believe QT Marshall still works with Cody Rhodes with the Nightmare Factory, and QT Marshall is employed with AEW. So I would be very surprised if they don't reach out to Malakai about, possibly about his school or working some kind of deal with the WWE ID program. So again, I mean, I just think with everything going on right now, I definitely don't see the guy retiring. I mean, like I said, he just opened up a wrestling school, the Dark Arts Wrestling School. And I think he just started doing that a couple months ago. So, I mean, I don't think he's retiring. I think he's probably at a point, I mean, I can't speak on his behalf, but I think from a fan standpoint, I just think he's in the aspect that he wants to, do every aspect of pro wrestling that he possibly can, especially with now opening up in a wrestling school, giving other men and women opportunities to become professional wrestlers or work the indies or something like that, which is, I'm all for that. I'm all for people helping people out. But like I said, man, I still genuinely believe that Malakai Black will be going back over to WWE. It's only a matter of when. When his contract's up, I'm sure WWE is going to be offering him a shit ton of money and a possibility of coming back over to WWE. And I still believe that he will go over to WWE. There's not much for Malakai Black to do, as well as the House of Black stable alone in AEW, just because Tony Khan doesn't really know how to book matches correctly that make actual sense. There's a lot of logic gaps, which I was talking about earlier when I did my Dynamite review, even with the storylines and stuff like that with AEW. There's a lot of logic gaps. There's not really a lot of things that fans can really sink their teeth into and get invested in as far as the AEW product is concerned. So, it could also be something, too, with other talent, possibly within AEW, also seeing the writing on the wall with AEW as well. And if the opportunity is given, they might go over to WWE. The grass might be a little bit greener over there. I mean, look what happened with Cody. Look what happened with Jade Cargill. I mean, people in AEW that were even close to Jade or Cody Rhodes on a friendship level are probably seeing what these guys, both Jade and Cody are doing, and saying, hey, you know what, I want a piece of that pie. People like Ricky Starks, people like Wardlow, Malakai Black. Obviously WWE is firing on all cylinders right now, and they're, right now as far as pro wrestling, they're the fan favorite. A lot of people are tuning in to the product of what WWE has to present, and a lot of people can actually get invested in the product just with the storylines alone. Like I said earlier in the Dynamite review, I talked about WWE briefly, and I said, right now, the best storyline in all professional wrestling is the Bloodline storyline. And that storyline has been going on now for about 3 years. And the storyline has progressively got better and better and better over time, where Triple H and his staff, are constantly adding new ingredients and new pieces to this puzzle to get, fans invested. I mean, they added Tama Tonga Loa, and then they brought in, Jacob Fatu was an absolute beast. So it's getting fans invested. The Rock was at Bad Blood recently in Atlanta. We haven't heard anything from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson since then. So again, he's also the wild card into all this as well. How is he going to factor in? Roman Reigns is, trying to acquire the original Bloodline with Jimmy and Jay and possibly Sami Zayn to help him out against Solo Sikoa's new Bloodline. So, again, WWE's firing on all cylinders, and a lot of the talent might be seeing this and say, you know what, I might want to go over to WWE. I mean, even FTR, there's always a possibility FTR, Dax, and Cash might go back over to WWE. Who knows? I mean, the option's open, and I think that's the one thing that I really can't stand with fans as far as the tribalism is concerned. If you're a pro wrestling fan, this is great from all sides of the fence here. I mean, I said it multiple times before, competition breeds success. And now these men and women don't have to just be, okay, well, it's only WWE and that's it. Or it's WWE, or I have to wrestle over in Japan and do all these excursions over in Japan where I'm gone from my family, or on the road for 3 or 4 or 5 months in a row where I don't see my family or anything, and I'm over in Japan, or, stuff like that. And they don't get a chance to, see their families or anything because they're on these excursions over in New Japan. So now with AEW being in the States, it's not just WWE or not just AEW. They can, talent can go to WWE or talent can go to AEW. So I think it's a great time for these men and women not to just be stifled to one company. And I think that's one of the best things about this situation with AEW and WWE, where you have to look at it from a fan standpoint. I mean, you got to understand, these people that you see on TV, these men and women, they also have their own personal lives. I mean, they also have bills to pay just like everybody else. So obviously they're going to benefit themselves financially the best way that they possibly can. They make sure that they're covered and that, they can somewhat live comfortably for what they do on a consistent basis, day in, day out. So I don't blame that at all. You know what I mean? I'm never going to sit here and completely bash a wrestler at all. I obviously want the best for all these men and women that compete in pro wrestling. I want the best for them, just like I say about Ricky Starks. I would love to have Ricky stay in AEW, but right now he's not being utilized, and maybe he can be utilized better creatively over in WWE. It's a possibility. Look at Cody Rhodes. Every time you see Cody Rhodes on SmackDown, for Tony Khan, it's got to be one of those things where you're going to have to, grind your teeth a little bit and be like, damn, I might have messed this up with Cody Rhodes. Maybe. I mean, Cody was wrestling at the end of his tenure with AEW without a contract. So, I mean, again, it's apples and oranges, man. Obviously, Cody Rhodes is, the poster boy right now for WWE. He's got the John Cena schedule, and from what I heard today, WWE has a lot of praise for Cody Rhodes, man. There's no thing in the foreseeable future where they're going to take that belt off of Cody. Cody might actually have that title all the way up until WrestleMania. You know what I mean? And I'm all for it. I think Cody is a great ambassador for pro wrestling. He's a great ambassador for WWE. And he's doing a hell of a job, and he's a great businessman. He knows exactly what the hell he's doing. So I'm all for it, man. He's smart for business, and he's great for professional wrestling. And when it pertains to Malakai Black, like I said, I mean, long story short, the retirement talk is crazy. Number one, I'm going to address that now. I think that's absolutely, whoever came up with that idea, I don't know where you pulled that out of, but that's insane. The guy's not even that old, number one. Number two, he just opened up a wrestling school to train men and women to become professional wrestlers, whether it's professionally or independently. He's trained, pro wrestlers. And like I mentioned earlier, whether it's going to be something that might be a possibility for him or not, WWE had just created this WWE ID program, giving other gyms and stuff like that and other schools the opportunity to showcase possibly their talent that are with that school to be on WWE television, whether it's NXT or an extra or something like that. So maybe one day that might be a possibility that they might also add Malakai Black's Dark Arts Wrestling School, a part of that WWE ID program. So, I still think it, like I said, I still think it's a high possibility that, will Malakai Black go over to WWE? I think so. I mean, I think, it's already been speculated and rumored immensely that WWE, once his contract's up, is going to offer him a deal and pay him substantially to bring him back over to WWE. So, I mean, could I see him going? I'll put it to you like this: I can see him going to WWE before he retires. Do I think he's going to stay with AEW for the rest of his career? No, I just don't. And I've said that. Christ, man, I said that for the longest time, that I don't think that Malakai Black is going to be one of those guys that comes in from WWE that's going to be a lifer for AEW. Now, there's some talent that's come over from WWE to AEW that I think are just going to stick it out with AEW until their career comes to an end. I think Adam Copeland's one of them. I think Christian Cage is one of them. Keith Lee might also be in the conversation, just riding out his career in AEW and call it a day. Bobby Lashley, he just signed on to AEW. I think he's going to finish his in-ring career with AEW. MVP as well, Shelton Benjamin. Because there's nothing really left for these guys to do because they've done all of it already in WWE. So, Bryan Danielson's another one. Bryan Danielson's probably going to finish his entire in-ring career. And like I said, when he lost it, Bryan Danielson, he retired from full-time in-ring, action, but he didn't retire completely for pro wrestling. So, I just think Bryan Danielson will finish his career out in AEW. Adam Cole, I think Adam Cole will be another one. I think he's going to retire in AEW and call it a day. He wants to stay with AEW, and he seems like he's really comfortable in a situation with AEW, and I'm all for it. But like I said, man, the Malakai Black situation, the reason why I wanted to address this is because I know some people might have got it, misconstrued on what I said about Malakai Black. It's not that I think he's going to retire. No, I never said he was going to retire. But do I still think that the possibility of him going over to WWE is a possibility? Absolutely. I still believe that he will go over to WWE because there's not much left for him to do in AEW. The House of Black stable, unfortunately, is not being utilized correctly, at least in my eyes, not being utilized correctly. It should be one of the most predominant stables in all of AEW, but I don't see that being the case. If anything, I think the Hurt Syndicate is going to be the next predominant stable in AEW right now, just off what Shelton Benjamin has done in the past couple of weeks since he's been with AEW. He's done a fantastic job. So now adding Bobby Lashley to the mix, he's that extra muscle that MVP and Shelton Benjamin need. So, and obviously he has a high-profile matchup, possibly at Full Gear, with former AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland. So again, that's going to be a really good match, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. But long story short, man, like I said, I just wanted to come on here and address to you guys my thoughts on the Malakai Black situation and give my take on it. I don't see him retiring. There was a video that surfaced on TikTok that I saw with Malakai Black addressing what happened last night, and he even himself said that he has no plans on retiring. And if he did, we'll be the first ones to know. And he has no plans on retiring anytime soon. And he still continues to keep wrestling, whether that's with AEW or WWE, that's still yet to be seen. But in my honest opinion, once his contract's up and if WWE does offer him a contract, I think it's almost safe to say that Malakai Black will be leaving AEW, going back over to WWE. But like I said, man, I just wanted to address the situation with Malakai Black, give my thoughts on this whole situation, let you guys know my thoughts on it, and give you my take on the whole situation with Malakai Black. But with that being said, this is kind of my news and rumors of the day. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.